Chapter 2. A small, scaled creature scurries across the rocky floor, pausing at the entrance of a dimly lit cave. Its beady eyes dart nervously as it slips inside, heading straight for a patch of luminous green fungus clinging to the damp wall. It sniffs cautiously, then begins to nibble at the fungus, its tiny body twitching with anxiety. A sudden whistle cuts through the silence. A sharp stick flies through the air and strikes the creature with deadly precision. It lets out a faint, pitiful squeal, its body convulsing before curling tightly around the wound. From the darkness, a large, red-furred paw emerges, clawed fingers curling around the stick to lift the impaled prey. The figure steps into the faint, bioluminescent glow, revealing a squat, plumy form covered in scruffy, matted fur. Its large, pointy ears twitch, and a grumpy expression mars its haggard face, framed by deep, dark bags under tired eyes. The creature's dull gaze rests coldly on its prey. Without pause, it sinks sharp teeth into the small body, tearing off a piece with a savage bite. Blood dribbles down its dirty fur as it pulls the remainder off the stick, holding it aloft for a moment before dropping it into its mouth. A faint, toothy smile follows as it licks its lips with grim satisfaction. The red-furred figure wipes the stick clean on his matted fur, then tucks it into a crude sack slung over his shoulder, a ragged collection of scavenged odds and ends. With a grunt, he drops the sack to the ground and slumps onto a nearby rock, exhausted. Leaning back, he stretches before collapsing onto his back with a heavy sigh. For a moment, he stares up at the dim ceiling of the cave, his thoughts distant.
Maybe just a little rest,
he mutters to himself, the exhaustion evident in his voice. With another deep yawn, he turns onto his side, tucking his paws beneath his head. Within moments, his steady snores begin to echo softly through the cavern, blending with the quiet stillness of the cave. A few moments into his slumber, a faint tremor shakes the ground. Small stones drip from the cave ceiling. One falls down and bounces off the side of the furry creature's head.
Huh?
He groans, sluggishly attempting to roll over with his awkward, oddly proportioned body. A slightly larger stone lands squarely on him, jolting him awake. His eyes snap open as he realizes what is happening. What began as a small tremor had grown into a thunderous quake.
What's going on?
He muttered, his voice tinged with annoyance, as though the world itself conspired to disrupt his sleep. He scrambled to his feet and bolted out of the cave, seeking what he thought would be safety. But standing outside the cave at the bottom or a dried-up cliffside, he was met with an ominous sight. The sky was consumed by the darkest clouds he had ever seen. Thunder roared, lightning split the heavens, and a biting wind whipped through the air, chilling him to the core.
No, it can't be. Not again,
he murmured, his voice heavy with dread. This chaos felt all too familiar. Suddenly, a crashing sound broke through the thunder's din. He snapped his head toward the noise and raced to investigate. As he rounded the side of the cave, he stopped abruptly, his eyes widening in disbelief. Embedded in the sandy terrain was a massive tree, its roots stretching skyward, its crown buried in the ground. Cautiously, he approached the overturned tree, reaching out to pluck a handful of leaves from a low-hanging branch. His hands trembled as he stared at the green foliage.
This can't be possible,
he gasped, his voice thick with confusion and disbelief. Before he could process the bizarre sight, another crash erupted behind him, startling him into a yelp.
Ah!
He spun around, his fur bristling. A massive rock coated in frost now lay embedded in the sand, just meters away. His breathing quickened as he turned his gaze back to the sky. His dark eyes scanned the chaotic scene unfolding above. Swirling patterns emerged in the stormy expanse, flickering in and out of existence, each one spitting out debris, trees, rocks, and unrecognizable objects, like a nightmarish rain.
What in blazes?
he muttered, a chill coursing through his body as he shuddered.
No. This isn't the same,
he added, his voice tinged with uncertainty as he slowly backed away. The storm raged on, with debris raining from the sky in chaotic bursts. Realizing the danger, he bolted back into the cave, snatching up his sack and retreating to a dark corner. There, he cowered, clutching the bag tightly to his chest. For what felt like an eternity, the mysterious storm continued its violent display. Then, as abruptly as it had started, it stopped. The rumbling ceased. The howling winds fell silent, and the thunder and lightning faded away. An unsettling stillness settled over the land, broken only by the occasional thud of rocks and trees tumbling to the ground. With hesitant steps, the red-furred creature crept forward, his heart pounding. He peered cautiously out of the cave, his head just barely poking past the entrance.
Is it over?
He whispered to himself, inching further outside. The eerie silence stretched on, and as he scanned the horizon, he felt his shoulders relax. Realizing that the chaos had subsided, he let out a deep sigh of relief. But his reprieve was short-lived. A loud thwack echoed beside him as one of the last remnants of the storm, a jagged branch, crashed down into the sand just inches away.
Wah!
He squealed, jumping in panic. He quickly cleared his throat, attempting to regain his composure.
Yeah, well,
he muttered, brushing imaginary dust from his fur. He glanced around at the wreckage left by the storm, trees uprooted, rocks scattered, and debris strewn across the red sands. With a shrug, he dismissed the destruction.
Well, I guess I can go back to sleep now,
he grumbled, trudging back into the cave. Reclaiming his familiar spot on the rock, he flopped down with a huff, ready to finish his interrupted nap. As time moves on, everything continues on as it did before the storm. The sky is not showing any signs of it ever happening. The sun begins to set.
Ah!
Once again, startled and awoken by a sudden unexpected noise, falling off the side of the rock he was sleeping on. But this time it was different. There was no rumbling, the wind was calm, and there was no sign of any storm. So what could this be? The red creature peeked over the rock, holding his ears down to prevent them from poking over the top. His tired eyes peered over the surface out towards the exit of the cave. A rustling sound begins to sound from the fallen tree. The red being quickly shoots back behind the rock. The rustling continues, getting more violent and loud. He gives out a gulp and braces himself to take a look. He quickly pops his head round the side of the rock, only to see a silhouette hunched over at the entrance. He quickly shot back behind the rock and whispered to himself.
Oh crap! They are back!
He curls himself up and begins to quiver. A few spaces out, footsteps sound out, before one final, louder thud. The red creature waits, listening out for any further sounds.
Did they go?
He whispers and slowly attempts to peek out once more. As his eyes reached round the stone, he could no longer see the figure standing there. But wait, he notices. The shadowy figure was now on the floor. Eyes twitching from side to side, the creature begins to think how to approach the situation.
Do I make a run for it? Sneak out? What if it wakes up? Maybe I'll just hold still and wait it out,
he said, conflicted. After moments of internal indecision, he decides to briskly leave, sticking to the side of the cave wall. As he approaches the exit, trying quickly to run by in case the mysterious being wakes up, he couldn't help but try to catch a glimpse of who or what it was on the floor.
Huh?
The red creature froze in his steps. Something about the fallen being caught his interest. Deciding not to make his escape, the red furry creature decides to let curiosity get the best of him. As he walks closer, it becomes clearer to him. This being is not like any he's seen before, and he's hurt. He looks over at the fallen being on the floor to find a beaten and battered man, his hair torn and knotted with twigs and leaves, covered in cuts and scratches, and a big bloody wound on his leg. The red creature's heart pounds rapidly as he moves forward to investigate.
I need your help.